Okay, we are finally on the last part of our Pomodoro timer extension, the styling. And I know for a lot of people that styling can be kind of tedious, and it's kind of an unavoidable thing with styling just because it takes a lot of effort to make things look good. And I'm not a great designer myself, so I kind of struggle with this, but we'll give it our best shot. In order to begin, we'll head over to our pop-up. We'll begin by opening our HTML and our CSS. And I think for the first thing we want to do is, I'm thinking we make this a little bigger. We do 350 pixels, and we give it a nice background color. For example, let's try something like red. So we'll save that, and we'll open our extension. That red looks a little bright. A way to style a little easier and test out colors is if we inspect element, and we go to the body, we can see this background color field. You can see how you can toggle it on and off. Well, another cool thing you can do actually is edit the style directly and then copy and paste it into the body. For example, this background color field, I can type something like red and a bunch of predefined color options pop up. Use the arrow keys on my keyboard, the up and down keys, to go through these colors. And you'll notice that as I do that, they actually change in the pop-up. So I don't actually have to save my CSS and go back and forth every time. So looking through these reds, I think Indian red. Actually, it's kind of a nice muted red. I think it looks pretty good. So we'll use that for now. We can actually copy this entire thing and paste it into our CSS. And the format will be exactly what we want it to be. And when we open the pop-up again, we can see the color is correct. So something really useful that we can do is actually just style from inside of the inspect element console and then copy and paste the CSS over to reduce the amount of time that we have to go back and forth. The next thing I want to look at is this header. It's kind of getting a little lost in the background now because it's red. So I'm thinking we do a nice little background color for it, kind of like a nav bar, so it sticks out, just to give it a little bit more style. So the way we do that is we'll set a background color, and we'll do white smoke. Okay, that looks okay. I think it really sticks out on this background, but we probably want it to extend out towards the edges. You'll see on the body, when you hover over the body div, you can see that there's a margin all around the side. So in order to get rid of that, we can set the margin to 0 on the body, like something like this. We'll do margin 0, and it'll extend to the side. But now all of these things kind of get smushed against the wall of the extension. So instead of doing that, an escape hatch you can use, which might be a little hacky, depending on the way you look at it, is you can actually do margin. You can do something like -8 pixels, and you will see that that fixes it. We'll just do that for now, and I think what we'll also do is add some padding so that our icon isn't so close to the edges. So let's do like 5 pixels. Okay, and that looks pretty good. So I'm just gonna copy and paste that into my CSS. Save. And I can open this back up. Cool. So things are looking good. The next element on the block is our time. So what we'll want to do is align the text to the center. We'll increase the font size as well. It's looking a little small. Maybe we try 40 pixels. We'll even do 50 pixels. Nice and big. The margins are a little big, so actually I think we'll make it a bit smaller. Do margin 10 pixels. So that's a little closer. And we're going to change the font weight. I think if we do normal, it doesn't look as obtrusive. Or I kind of like the thinner font. It looks a little cleaner. And the color will do white smoke as well, to match what we have in the nav bar. I will take this styling, and we'll add in our ID is hash time for the H1. Going back to our pop-up. ID is time, so copy and paste that styling in and save. Cool. So that's looking pretty good. And we probably want to center all of these buttons, but they're not inside of a container, so we can't actually fix them. So we'll actually have to edit our HTML. I'll add in a div for all of our buttons. And I'll just give it an ID of button container. Okay. And then we inspect. We have our empty div here, but if we do a display flex and justify content space evenly, then spacing of our buttons look a lot better. So I'll copy that over to our CSS file. We'll save. And then now we actually want to style all the buttons inside of the button container. So we can do that directly just by doing button container and an arrow to button. And if we reopen this and inspect the button, we see it has this empty CSS class, but we can do things to this. For example, if we set the color to Indian red, it changes the font. And we'll actually set the background color while we're at it. We'll use white smoke just so that the theme is set up pretty nicely among all of our different elements. And this border is not too nice looking, so let's actually just remove the border. Do border none. And when you click on this timer, we'll notice this like odd outline around it, which doesn't really fit our styling. So we'll want to turn that off by doing outline none. Cool. It's looking a bit better. And we can also do border radius 5 pixels to give it a nice little round curve to it to make it look a little cleaner. And we probably want a bit more padding inside of the text, since the text is pretty close to the edges of the button. So if we do something like padding 8 pixels, the buttons look a little bigger and the letters have a bit more space to breathe. And the text is a little small, so maybe we can increase the font weight, something like bold, to make it look a little better. And when we click this button, we notice that it kind of expands and shifts the width of all of these buttons along with it. And that's because, you know, these letters are a bit bigger than the start letters. So instead of having that happen, what we should actually do is set the width to 95 pixels. So that always the same. And when we hit this button, well, things still expand. That's because there's not enough space. So we actually want to increase the size of the body element. For example, if we did 400 pixels, still not enough space. Okay, so it's not the width that's the problem. I think it's likely that we need more space. We probably still need more space. So we'll do something like with 100. And that should fix it. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. And we'll also edit the cursor to be pointer. That way, when you hover over this, we see that it is clickable. Because before, it was still doing the regular cursor. We just added a bunch of styling to our buttons. But luckily, if we just copy this, we can paste it into here, and we don't lose any of it. Open this back up. Yeah, all our styling is still there. So moving on, we have our tasks that we want to style. So if I inspect this, in our task container, we'll want to do something similar. We'll do display flex, and our flex direction will be column. That everything is in a nice column. We'll align all of our items, do it into the center, and we'll add some padding so that this container, if we highlight here, we can see the padding shifts it down from all of these buttons. So we'll take this task container, we'll add the styling in.